Chloe Zhao managed to shoot the most compelling movie of the last decade, probably, and she just managed to uh, remind to us all why we love movies, why we love stories, why people love telling stories, and why people love to go through so much pain to tell stories, and what is storytelling at its heart. And she made it through Hamnet, and thanks to William Shakespeare. Welcome back, everyone, to the Italian Film Buff podcast. How are you doing, guys? In the middle, we had Christmas. We have New Year's Eve. I was supposed to release a Christmas special. I was supposed to release the movie that I loved the most in 2025. I'm probably going to do that even if we are close to the end of January. It's crazy, but at some point I promise I will try to keep up, because I still have to talk to you about Marty Supreme, a movie that I love deeply. But anyway, to the 5 people that are still listening to this podcast, I'm trying to release the episode whenever they're supposed to be released. I will keep up the good work, but anyway, I will keep trying. I'm so busy with everything else I'm doing already in Italian with my podcast, but anyway, you don't care, so let's talk about something else. Let's talk about movies and cinema. I'm still today is the 17th, when it's Saturday Night Live. No, it's Saturday night and I'm recording this, and I spent the 16 rewatching every piece of footage, every interview, tribute video about David Lynch, and I was amazed by how many people 1 year later are still talking about David Lynch. I mean, the passing of David Lynch, because so many people pass in the last years, in the last 5, 6, 10 years. Very important people, but David Lynch, I'm seeing a way of joy and admiration and genuine love for his work and for everything that he has done. And I'm gonna say this again. Unfortunately, I started this podcast with a David Lynch special because he passed away. But I'm gonna say this again in case you never listened to that episode. But I'm still very sad about his passing, because I think he was a true artist. I think he was that kind of genuine artist that it's like the true north for every creative. Doesn't matter if you work in cinema, doesn't matter if you're a screenwriter, a writer, a designer in any form or shape, if you work in gaming, if you work in music, doesn't matter what's your field of work in the creative industry, or if you're not in any industry whatsoever, you just like to make art, whatever. I think David Lynch is still the true north for every artist, most nowadays, because everybody, doesn't matter if it's YouTube, TikTok, cinema, music, gaming, everybody does those things, or at least the perception that I have is that so many people want to do those things, television or whatever, radio, whatever it is, podcasting, whatever it is, just for the sake of being famous, just for the sake of getting money. I'm a big fan of MasterChef, not the US version. Nobody takes it in the wrong way. I've watched the US version with my wife for so many years, and it's mind-boggling how it's still the same TV show. I mean, they're still talking about, oh, we have an amazing protein, chicken, and every time it's chicken. If it's not chicken, it's I don't know, beef. If it's not beef, it's turkey. Every time they do the same thing over and over again. If you watch the Italian version, unfortunately they don't ship it elsewhere, and it's a shame, because the level of the challenges, it's insane. They do cuisine from every part of the world. They made every sort of cuisine, Italian or foreign. It's insane. The level, it's completely different from the US version. It's insane how more interesting is. But anyway, even people going to compete in MasterChef, they do, oh, because cooking is my life. No, it's the idea that you associate to cooking. So the fact that you're gonna be famous, that's it. Because they say, oh, it's gonna be life changing for me. Yes, because you wanna be famous. You wanna go on TV. You wanna have people recognize you on the street. You wanna build a career in that sense. But it's not like you're gonna be the, most of the time they don't go into actual cooking. Most of the time they just want to be famous. That's it. And that's it for everything. As I said, cinema, TV, screenwriting, writing of every genre, shape, or form, and acting. When I started as a filmmaker and was doing casting, I had people that I could see that they were doing that just because of the money, just because of the idea of the money, just because of the idea of performing and being praised. And they didn't care whatsoever about what they were doing. Even speaking with people that were into directing, they didn't care. They thought they were better than anybody else. I remember this guy, I remember there was the Bridge of Spies was out, and he said, this is one of the worst movie I ever seen. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's brilliant. It's a brilliant movie, just on a technical level. Don't even take in consideration the acting, the content. Just on the directing level, it's insane. It's fantastic. How can you say it's the worst movie you ever seen? You must be, I don't know. I have no idea. And I was talking with people that they just were so arrogant, and they were just into their own idea that they were going to be famous, and they were going to be praised, and they had this insane idea of how the artistic world was supposed to work, and that everybody was just going to give them money and put in front of them red carpet because they are geniuses. It was insane. It was just, you don't care. You don't care, neither for a split second, about this form of art. And David Lynch was the kind of guy that he spent his whole life talking about the art life. And please, I don't care if you like his cinema. If you don't like it, it doesn't matter. You gotta read his biography, Room to Dream, because it's fantastic. It's like a Bible for any people who wants to be in the industry, because basically there he tells you he started making art with painting, and he had a hard time in school, in whatever, and he made the Elephant Man, one of the most amazing film about humankind ever made. I mean, I rewatched it in the movie theater a couple of years back, and it was glorious. Not just on a technical level, on a human scale. You watch that movie about diversity and life and death, and it's an experience. It's an insane, great. It's a movie that's so great that it's difficult to talk about it without enthusiast for how great that movie is. But anyway, he made The Elephant Man. His first movie was Eraserhead, that it became one of the favorite movie by Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick loved Eraserhead, and it's still one of the there are directors like Martin Scorsese. He loved Eraserhead. He was blown away by that movie. Every good director in Hollywood back then was blown away by that movie. And anyway, no studio approached David Lynch. The only one was Mel Brooks. And he gave this movie to him, and he made one of the most insane, amazing movie about humankind, about humanity, about diversity, about being kind, about freaks, and it was a technical achievement. It was a great artistic achievement, and he was living in poverty. He was living in poverty. He already had a daughter, but he was poor because he had no money whatsoever. But still, every day was going to the Big Boy Diner. I don't remember what's the name. Bob's Big Boy. And he was going there, having a coffee or a milkshake and writing idea on napkins. And he was still working every day, every single day, because he loved to do that. And sometimes he had to do some jobs. Eraserhead took 5 years because he wanted to make that movie. He ended up without money because the money of the American Film Institute finished pretty fast because they thought it was a short film, because the screenplay was 20 pages long, but actually was a feature. And he was like, it took 5 years because it was shooting stuff. I finish money, I go to work, save money, shoot again, finish money, go to work, shoot again. And he was doing like this 5 years. And he made a masterpiece. But he was keep going because he loved doing that. And he couldn't do anything else. He just loved doing that. And he says clearly in his interview, if you love it, you're gonna find a job. You're gonna dedicate yourself to it because you love it. Because there is no greater joy than do something that you love, that you cherish, And I mean, and he spent his whole career like this. He made a bunch of movies, and all of them, they are in the history of cinema. He had the greatest director who ever lived going to him saying that they love these movies. And he changed television with Twin Peaks. He made a show that was beloved by millions. Is still beloved by million people, and people rewatch it every year. That was a festival. I don't know that if they're still doing now that is gone. But then he made Twin Peaks The Return, and he changed television again. He made episode 8 is one of the most incredible achievement in a television show ever shot, probably. It's insane how a man that is over 70 years old managed to do that. And he did that, and he did that because he loved doing what he was going to do. And even before his passing, he was so in love with what was doing that it was keep working, and he wanted to work again, and he wanted to even direct a TV show in some way because he wanted to do that. He wanted to try a way to do that. And this is a great lesson for anyone who wants to be in this field. I mean, you gotta do art because you love it. You gotta do what you want to do because you love it, not because you aspire to have money, fame, or whatever. That's why we have some of the worst entertainment ever in cinema and in other fields, because people do it just because it's an industry. That's it. They don't see the idea of telling a story for the sake of telling a story. They tell a story just because we have investor, we gotta make money. That's it. And the director became this thing. We just want to make big money and big movies with huge budget. And I want to be clear, I have nothing against big budget movie, but when people defend something like Avatar, and I'm gonna talk about Avatar at some point, I wanted to talk about, I hated that movie, but anyway, when people say, oh, but it's a great achievement, I'm sorry, it's not. He wants to make billion. That's it. He doesn't care about cinema. He wants to make money. That's it. And I'm gonna talk about that. But anyway, David Lynch, it's still very necessary. I think because also his way of life was a way of life towards happiness. You want to be happy, live like David Lynch. I think that's super important, and it's a truth. It's like that. It's like that. You want to be happy in life, live like David Lynch. You're gonna be happy. You're gonna be super happy. But anyway, let's cut the chase. I want to talk about Hamnet, and to be honest, I will try to do not have my heart broken again by my own recollection of what I've seen in a movie theater and talking about the movie, because it really broke my heart. It's such a powerful and graceful and an amazing movie. Chloe Zhao, she made a movie that I don't like when people go right away for, oh, it's going to be a movie that in 30 years we're going to talk about it. This one, it is. Actually, it is. This is a movie that will define cinema as long as we are alive. I seriously think that. And I think it's one of those movies that it was necessary, but we actually didn't knew that it was necessary. I mean, we know it that it was necessary, but we actually didn't knew till we went to a movie theater and we saw it. And this is why, because at the Golden Globe there was Paul Thomas Anderson. He won for the best screenplay, and he talked about the fact that he steal. And there is this saying going around, well, artists steal, but it's kind of reference to the fact that they steal to other artists. But I think that's bullshit. I think there's a misinterpretation of the idea of the whole concept of the idea of artist steal. I think the actual thing is that artists steal from life itself. And that was what Paul Thomas Anderson was talking about, because he was talking about stealing line from the actors that he had on set, his friends, the people that he had around, from Nina Simone. He talks about a line that he stole from Nina Simone, and he took the line and he put it in a character that was perfect for that line and for that concept, and then it probably evolved based on that, the whole character and the whole motivation and concept that character had. I think that's what he has done, because I think that artists, to be a writer, to be a screenwriter, to be an artist anyway, you gotta be honest. You gotta put honesty in your film. You gotta put everything you've got, and to do that, you gotta live. You gotta live your life. You gotta have experiences. You can't just. I'm gonna say something that I don't 100% like, but for the sake of the argument and for the fact that I believe in this, I think the Quentin Tarantinization of cinema was a bad thing. I mean, as much as Tarantino was crucial for cinema as a form of art, as much as he was a poison in a way, because his way of taking from others' movies and make something that is his own, like for example in Pulp Fiction there is the dance between Travolta and Uma Thurman, but it's stolen from Fellini. Yes, it's the same thing. The setting is completely different. The word is completely different. Everything is different. He's taking that thing. Yes, it's a reference, whatever. But that thing educated generation and generations and generations of creative to do that. And everything we have most of the time, it's a byproduct of this concept. And the idea that everything we see, it's a reference to something else. And if you get the reference, oh, you're smart, you know your cinema. If you don't get it, You understand, you appreciate a little bit less, or you find it genius, but you don't know that actually it's a reference made by someone else. And the reference sometimes are super cheap or super annoying, and they are not worth what they're trying to quote from another artist according to what they're telling, and it's just cheap, it's just lazy. And I think that this is it. We have generation of artists that they have nothing to say. They have no creativity, and they keep basically telling the same story over and over. And the only things that gives life to those stories is basically the fact that it's a quote of a quote, or a reference of a reference. I think the substance, it's the sublimation of this thing. The substance, it's a a cinephile or a movie buff or film buff, whatever you want to say, galore. I mean, you go there, there are 1,000 references to, and this shot is from that movie, the set looks like that Shining, and the other thing looks like Brian De Palma, the thing, and you go like, okay, amazing. Even the concept itself of the movie, it's from a genre that was invented by Cronenberg, that is the body horror, and he's kind of the father and basically the only one that makes it good. It's the only one that actually is the champion of a genre, that he kind of sub-genre that he invented. And everything about the substance is basically from all those references. And you go like, okay, but the artist, what she has actually done with that movie? Nothing. Because everything is a reference of a reference of a reference, and it's a collection of references. But what you want to say? It's not even there, because, yeah, I mean, it's kind of there, but it's through so many layers of references and concept stolen from someone else in a brilliant way, but still, that the movie just disappear in these endless seas of references. And this is not the way of an artistic life. This is not the way of telling stories and creating. I believe you gotta live your life. You gotta steal from the people you have around. Maybe you have a cousin, an uncle, a funny waiter in the place where you go to drink coffee every day, that can be, or can say, or is going to say something that is going to be brilliant and funny, and that is going to be perfect for a character or for a story, or everything that you go through in life. It's going to be a fuel to tell something, but you got to live your life. If you stay in a golden cage and you have the rare arrogance of never navigating life and thinking that whatever you want to say, it's interesting just because, I don't know, you're good at stealing, or you're good at, I don't know, framing or building a 3-arc structure story, or getting whatever is spot on in that moment and reading the time, and so you get viral or whatever, well, it's not enough. It's gonna be very volatile. It's gonna disappear very soon. But this movie, it gives us a good example of, as Paul Thomas Anderson say, how important it is to steal, but for life. That's what I think he was saying. Not from other artists, from life itself. Your experiences. If you experience love, loss, or whatever you experience, it's going to be huge to tell any kind of story. And the kind of story can be drama, a comedy, an horror movie, a sci-fi, a superhero movie. You can, let's take, for example, James Gunn. He can tell you something about brotherhood, family, relationship, relationship between a father and a son, with something like Guardians of the Galaxy, and you go in a theater and you tear up because you understand that there is an honesty in those feelings, in those stories, in those characters, that it's very peculiar and interesting, and it works. I mean, the guy has no kids. He has no kids. But still, he managed to write one of the most amazing dialogue between a father and a son. And he managed to do that because he's a son and he remembered to be a son and he understands what's the struggle of a son, and he managed to write something that it's very wise for someone that has been a son and potentially can be a father, but at the moment is not. And he understands how precious is that role. And maybe because he had a great father figure or because he understands that very well, but it's part of who he is. And that can be achieved just if you navigate truly life and if you don't shield yourself from everything just because you want to be in your golden cage telling a story that makes sense just for you or for an algorithm or for, I don't know, because they go viral, because it's the same thing that goes around over and over and over. I mean, the thing about Hamnet, and now we're gonna finally talk about the movie. Paul Thomas Anderson had that speech, and Chloe Zhao adapting the novel that tell basically the story of how William Shakespeare created Hamlet through after the loss of his son. They managed to talk about that. They talk about life. They talk about the process of being fall in love, have kids, cherish everything that is being loved, cherish the time you spend with your family, with your kids. She talks about all those stuff, but she talks about as well how important are stories, how great is storytelling, how powerful is storytelling. And that is made because it's possible, because I mean, it's a speculation according to what I understood about the novel. It's basically speculation, the fact that how in the story William Shakespeare created Hamlet according to what happened to him in life. But it's a very good speculation. What I mean, this is what I mean. It's still a novel based on true facts, but still, it's a very good speculation because artists, that's what they do. Artists see the world around them, they filter reality, they steal from reality, but then they create a third space, something as a story that contains all their love, grief, desperation, pessimism, altruism, what they think about the future, what they think about human beings, what they think about their own idea about the world. They put that in a story after they filter reality through their eyes and their imagination. That's what they do. And so it's not very difficult to imagine that at some point William Shakespeare, after whatever happened, he was like, I want to write this. I feel compelled to write this because this thing so devastating that happened in my life was set in motion so many ideas about life, death, lost, and the idea that maybe he wanted just to make his son eternal, that he created that. It's not that weird. It's makes perfectly sense. But even if it's a speculation, what I think it makes great the movie, there are so many things that makes this movie insanely great. But one of the things is that basically we rediscover storytelling, and we understand as well why William Shakespeare today, it's one of those artists that should be admired by everyone who wants to be a writer. If you want to be a writer, doesn't matter if it's in cinema or for a novel or for a comic book, William Shakespeare should be your god, because he create entire structure of drama and comedy that are still used today, and are still used today not because people are lazy, but because they works amazingly well in in the way you want to navigate how to tell a story. But you can as well use other kind of let's say devices for storytelling. You can evolve them, you can work on them, you can, but he gave us a blueprint in that it's perfect to understand how elaborate human emotion and put them in a story, that it's fictional, that it's fake, that has nothing to have with your life, because he understands struggles and conflict and love and death. And Chloe Zhao made an amazing job in elaborating all those feelings, in particular the idea of death, dying. Um, and what is very powerful in the movie, it's a series of decisions that make this movie great, because the movie, it's not like a biopic dedicated to William Shakespeare. The power of this movie is that I don't know about the book, but I talk about the movie. The great thing about the movie is that you kind of forget that he's William Shakespeare, because he's barely the main character for most of the movie. Barely. It's like a presence, a kind of a ghost that he goes around. But since they know that the name of William Shakespeare, it's so powerful, basically you don't hear his full name, William Shakespeare, till the last act. In the last act you hear his name for the first time, but there is a reason. Because for the rest of the movie, the main character is Agnes. She's the main character. She's the star of the movie. And she's the star of the movie because she's life. And this movie is about life and death. And you gotta talk about life before you can tackle the idea of losing life and have to struggle to deal with that. And as a form of life, she's very elemental, because there is the idea of the witch. She's very connected to nature, to whatever it is life. She has this amazing relationship with nature and with life itself. And she claimed to see things, and she claimed she can heal using everything that nature gives. She understands nature. She understands the change of season. She understands when something is going wrong. Just stay in touch with nature. And she is life itself in a way. And basically for most of the movie you follow her. And so sorry, I gotta open one thing about the movie because I'm going nuts. But basically the decision to have William Shakespeare being a ghost for the whole thing at the beginning, it's because you gotta forget that it is William Shakespeare. You need to follow the story of those people, and they are people. You gotta get close to the kids. You gotta get close to the relationship that this kid has with his father. The way he connects with him, what he tells him, what he asks him to do, to be courageous at some point, to be brave. And you have to have that emotional connection, that it's very universal and it's about humans, and you need that connection, you know. And it is possible if I make William Shakespeare a ghost in the first couple of acts of the movies, because in this way you don't have this very big presence of the artist and thinking about the artist's struggle to create. That's not the point. And then when you reach the final act, and finally they talk about, we are looking for William Shakespeare. He get called by name, his whole name, because in that moment, it's his moment. It's the moment where you understand why writing and his writing is so important, why storytelling is so powerful. That's the moment. And that's the moment where his art needs to shine, because there is a meaning, and the meaning is connected to everything that we have seen before. And it couldn't exist without everything that we have seen before. It wouldn't make any sense. Or at least it would make sense with the fact that he wrote one of the greatest tragedy in the history of humankind, and he wrote it with words that are so amazing and fantastic that even I don't know, a rock will understand the greatness of those words, but they won't make any sense according to the kind of story that we want to tell. And the fact that we want to say that in order to elaborate some stuff of life, we need story, we need storytelling, we need to elaborate through heart, we need to find beauty in despair. Okay? Now it's coming to me a line from Midnight in Paris by Woody Allen when he's Owen Wilson is riding with, I don't remember the character, but he says that I'm gonna paraphrase because I don't remember correctly the line, but basically she says to him, if I remember correctly, I think it's the character played by Kathy Bates, I don't remember, but anyway, she said to him, your job is not, the job of the artist is not to basically resonate the idea of a life that it's bleak and there is despair. The job of the artist is to find a sort of an antidote, a sort of a balsam for despair, and the fact that his life is so frail and it's short. You that's your role. It's not to make everything way more bleak than what it is. And that's why we tell stories. And William Shakespeare, it's finally there in all his grace, because we see the humble artist that is in London, but he lives in small rooms, and he lives there because that's not the point. The point is creating, telling stories, and finally he's making a drama, not a comedy, like the character of Agnes Fink. He's making a drama. She never been in a theater, she never been to a play, and she goes there for the first time and she doesn't get it at the beginning. Why are they saying the name of my kid? Why are they saying Hamnet? Why? What's going on? She get dragged into this thing, and but then she gets lost in it. And little by little, she's there. She's there with a bunch of people. She doesn't know them. They don't know each other. Same experience that we have in a movie theater. That's one of the moments that the movie is great, also because it creates this sort of kind of breaking of the fourth wall, without actual breaking the fourth wall. It's a conceptual thing. There is not actually an actor breaking the fourth wall. It's the whole thing that it resonates, because we are an audience that at some point is watching an audience watching a play, and we get into the audience. It's not like we are being keeping away from them. We start to, through Agnes being there, and she's with those people, like I was, like other people were, like you were probably watching a movie, or like you're going to be in a movie in a theater with people you don't know, and you're totally captivated by the story. And she has this involvement that it's personal, like William. And she starts to cry. She desperated, and she starts to care about the character, and not not just because it's in a way, because it has the name of her son, because it's blonde like her son. It's not like that. It's because the story, it's compelling, it's fascinating, and it's talking about um, grace and courage, and it's a story about bravery and drama, and reflecting about life and death, and what she's going through because she's grieving. And when she see William, she sees him play the ghost, and that's what he think he is, according to what it was for his son. And then she started to get it, because she was mad to him. She was mad because what happened. I'm not gonna spoil in case you still haven't seen the movie. I'm not gonna spoil, even if, I mean, but whatever. She was mad, but now she get it. It wasn't indifferent. It's just that sometimes artists, like other people, they don't elaborate the things that they elaborate in the same way. You can be suffering in silence. You can be in a room suffering in silence. And the artist sometimes, as William Shakespeare says really, really well at the beginning of the movie, she goes like, you're the master, you're the one that has knowledge and words and stuff like that. How come that you can't speak to me properly? It was like, because sometimes it's difficult to speak to for me to speak to people. And artists are like that. They are like aliens. They can't verbalize thoughts and stuff like anybody else does, and the only way they can express what they feel, it's through heart. That is sometimes painful, a painful process, but through a play, a book, a song, a movie, they can express what they feel, what they think, what they are afraid of, what is crushing them, what it's make them feel weak and impotent, and they can express regret. They can feel why they fail about something. I don't know. They desperately look for a language that is, as I said, cinema, theater, whatever, because it's the only language through they are able to communicate. And in that moment, she understands how much pain, how many things crossed the mind of her husband, and how difficult it was to him to elaborate all of this. And he had thoughts, and he had pain, and he had grief, and he had regrets. But then she gets involved in the play, and the words are amazing, and it's poetry in motion, and it's so fascinating and moving. And at the end, we are with her, and we are mesmerized. Chloe Zhao, through Shakespeare, a true master, the bard, remembers us why story is so compelling and important. And suddenly, Agnes, she's completely blown away by the fact that she's not the only one caring about Hamlet on stage. Everybody else is in the audience. They don't share the same pain. They don't share the same experience, but they get it. And they are crying and with her. And they get it. And we in the audience, we get it as well. And we are there participating in that special connection that we have when we are audience in a theater, or for a play, or in a movie theater for a movie. That's the powerful game that there is there in that point in time. And it's so powerful, graceful, and amazing. Chloe Zhao managed to make something fantastic. Speaking of the way she managed to shot the whole thing, to orchestrate this whole thing. And this is why we tell stories. And this is why we elaborate life through stories in this way, in whatever form we decide to do that. David Lynch did elaborate his life, the early, confusing, and challenging, and full of rage and despair early days of his life with Eraserhead. And somebody else does, William Shakespeare did with Hamlet, to elaborate whatever he was elaborating with grief and loss. And it's a fantastic thing to do. It's so well done. It's so well put. It's a movie that is so powerful. Also because, I mean, the thing that the movie does, I think that Chloe Zhao in the past, she had an amazing grammar for storytelling, visual storytelling, sorry. What I mean is that I always admire how she managed to frame every movie she shot. But sometimes I thought as well that the beauty of what she was framing wasn't telling enough. I mean, not enough, wasn't connected enough to what she was telling. Sometimes the connection between the what it was in frame and what it was happening in the story wasn't actually there. There was something missing. But with Hamnet, I believe that she managed to create a perfect bridge between the way she understands amazingly well framing in cinema and how to connect it to a story. Because I believe Steven Spielberg said that as a producer when they won the Golden Globes, she was the only one that could do this film. And I believe yes, because she's like a little bit like Agnes. She has the connection with nature and the element, and I believe she was perfect for Hamnet because she has the perfect I don't know, she understands perfectly what the movie is trying to, what the story is trying to say. In the way she actually is Agnes in a way, behind the camera. And it works fantastically well. There is no second in this movie that it's wasted. It's like you have the impression that it's not exactly connected to what they are trying to tell in the story. Every second is important and crucial for this movie. It's fantastic in this way. The music, it's amazing. It's astonishing. It's incredible. The DOP made an amazing job. The photography of this movie, it's beyond everything that I have seen in the ballpark of drama and whatever in the last couple of years. It's fantastic. It's amazingly shot and framed and edited and act. I mean, Jessie Buckley, she's insane. The way she acts as Agnes is so raw and honest. And I mean, she and Paul Mescal, they both give me the same vibes when you see an amazing actor acting on stage. And the stage is very raw because the actor, they don't have many elements to make you believe to the story. Doesn't matter how big the production is. The illusion, it's very thin. It's not like in cinema. And because of that, their acting has to be insane, compelling. The level of compelling acting, when you see good actor in cinema, most of the time they are very good actor because they act on stage as well, and they are amazing. Lately we have those actors that they want to do drama. Okay, you want to do drama? If you want to do comedy, you go out loud. If you want to do drama, you speak like this. I think I'm afraid we gotta broke up. Everything is like this. But a good actor, drama, he can speak up with his voice, and it's gonna be believable. It is not going to be over the top. Okay, and they are like this. There is a moment with Paul Mescal. I mean, Jessie Buckley, she has the stage for the whole thing. She's fantastic. She's phenomenal. She's insane. I loved her. She's so graceful and 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 energetic and full of uh, pain and love and despair in some moment, that she's so genuine in the way she acts that I have no clue where she's coming from. I mean, I've seen her in other movies and she was fantastic, but here is something else. It's something. I mean, she was great in other movies as well, but here it's something that doesn't make any sense how good she is. But Paul Mescal, he has a scene where you understand this concept that I was explaining about the whispering, the intention in the acting, because he's rehearsing with some actors, and he's feeding the line to the actor specifically, and he's trying to perform, but there is no intention. The intention is not there, and he's suffering, and he start to shout the lines. And they shout and harder, and then he showed to the actor how he's supposed to act. He basically break the scene and he step in and in the rehearsal, and he show him how he's supposed to deliver those lines. There has to be passion and the voice has to be powerful, and has to be convincing, and has to be something that is magnetic, and that there's supposed to be pain and rage, and he's fantastic. That's how an actor acts. I love him. But anyway, the acting is amazing. And one thing that I love about this movie is that there are moments where you basically you kind of cross. You are always on the thin realm between reality and fiction. There are moments where you're no longer in a way in the real world. You are somewhere else. Even if it's still reality, but there is an element that it's bringing the story somewhere else. It's not fantastic per se. I mean, there is no moment where, I don't know, they talk about death and suddenly there is a death with them. It's not like that. It's not that element of fantastic, but in a very graceful way, Chloe Zhao managed to basically shift slightly into something else. At this point, I was supposed to do spoiler. I don't want to do spoiler, but there are a couple of moments that hit me really hard. For the kids, even with Hamnet itself, the son, there is a moment that is so powerful, because it's like if the movie is telling you that this thing about the witch, she's a witch, she's the daughter of a witch, is actually real. It's not like we are in a moment in time where people were actually saying those kind of stuff and believing those kind of stuff. No, in the movie we want to be kind of giving you an intention that actually there is something there that is actually true, even if it's fake. And there is a moment where you go like, oh, so this is actually true. There is an element where they actually see some stuff. And then there is an element, the way the mise-en-scene of the idea of dying, the idea of passing through this darkness and just disappearing, and the whole thing is done using a kid, and the way it's done, the mise-en-scene is so smart and is so graceful, and is so, at the same time, you can shock people with something very violent and very over the top and very cruel and very dark, and you can shock people in many ways. But it's amazing how Chloe Zhao here decide to, she goes for the art. I mean, she goes for for a way of telling you about this journey that this kid is doing, and everybody does at some point, that is so delicate, and it's so dreamy in a way, and it's so scary, and there is a sort of connection, as I said before, between reality and fantasy, and how you think character, they're perceiving those stuff, they're actually seeing those stuff, and hits very hard. She managed to do something that it's a sort of a metaphor, because of course it's not a sort of metaphor, it's metaphoric, the mise-en-scene and everything, but it's done in a way where the metaphor, you start to believe in a metaphor, and you breathe that metaphor, and it's the power of stories. It's the power of Shakespeare. It doesn't matter if you are a bunch of people standing in the mud to watch a play, but you're going to believe in it. You don't have a real queen in front of you. You don't have a real kid with blonde hair. It's painted there, poorly painted there, but you still believe in him. A ghost is a guy with a white cloth and a little bit of makeup, but you still believe in it because the story is so brilliantly put together, and the words and the acting, and in this case it's the photography and the mise-en-scene and the rhythm of the story and the way it's edited and the way it's moving forward and the way you are completely captivated about what it's telling, that you can the only thing that you just surrender to the story and you just start to believe in it. And you don't care if it's fake. It's for you, it's real life. And this is the power of storytelling. Because in this movie you actually believe. Beginning from the end. Not because you think it's the true story of William Shakespeare, because as I said before, till the last act, you don't have this perception that you are actually seeing a movie about William Shakespeare. It's just a guy named William, and here and there we talk about the fact that he work in theater, and in the very last act, as I said, he comes to life as William Shakespeare because we need his storytelling, we need his words, we need what he created, because that's the heart of it, the heart of the whole thing. As I was saying, how an artist steal from life in order to tell something to this audience that is actually honest and truth and has heart and has pain and has a way to convey how to face adversity, and Hamnet does everything. And even in Marty Supreme, that it's a great movie, I enjoy it very much. It was amazing, but still, it's still a movie. I'm there, but it's still in a movie theater. With Hamnet, I completely lost the idea that I was in a movie theater. I was there, and it was so powerful and so beautiful. And as I said, the acting, Jessie Buckley, she's fantastic. She's something else, and blow me away. That was insane. I think this is gonna be, for us in Europe, that we have just seen the movie release at the beginning of the year, is gonna be probably the movie of the year for us, because it's so good, so powerful. I think this movie is supposed to be studied in school. If you wanna study cinema, if you wanna study storytelling, this has to be studied. Because if you wanna tell a good story, this is it. You gotta understand that you gotta live life, you gotta have experiences, you gotta be raw, you gotta be honest about what you think about real life. And you don't have to be petty, you don't have to artificially, let's say, convince your audience or trap your audience in a completely made up reality just to make them cry. For example, I love The Brutalist on a technical level, but I hate it at the same time because I think that movie is engineered to give you such a bleak perspective on life that it's not honest. I believe the biggest problem of the movie is that it's very dishonest with the audience. Even with the last act, it's very bad for that point of view, because technically the movie it's marvelous. But speaking of that, it's kind of you feel betrayed by the director, because that's not how life works in any shape or form. You're just telling me a very, very cruel life just for the sake of have my, in a way, my compassion, and doesn't work like that. At least for me, I don't think it works. Doesn't matter how good the movie is, I'm not gonna forgive that. This movie, it's very honest instead. Hamnet, it's very honest and raw. And I'm not gonna lie. When I came back home before going to bed, I went into my son's bedroom, I give him a kiss, and then I go to sleep. I went to sleep because I couldn't do it differently. I was so shocked. Not shocked, but I was so hit by the movie that I was like, I want to go home and hug my son, because that I have to cherish every second that I have. I have to cherish life, and I have to understand how beautiful it is, and the fact that it ends at some point, and it can be brutal, it can be peaceful, but it's something that you gotta think about. Anyway, I love the movie. I thought it was brilliant in any part. I think it was great, and I hope you are going to enjoy it in a movie theater. I went to the Irish Film Institute here in Dublin. The theater was completely fully booked. It was amazing. The theater was full, and the people were completely captivated by the movie. It's been the first time in a very long time where I've not been in a movie theater at some point. There's a guy taking his cell phone, like checking the cell phone. I mean, the whole theater was so captivated by the movie that they were in the story, and that's it. It was amazing. And it's also the kind of a movie that, I don't know, everybody reacts to stuff in a different way, but when a movie hits me, I want to be alone. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to interact with people. I just left the movie theater, and just took a bike, and I went home on my merry way. And I was thinking about the movie. I'm still thinking about the movie, and I'm gonna be thinking about it in a couple of days. And then I open Instagram, did this morning, and I start to see interview with Chloe Zhao and stuff like that, and scene from the movies, and everything came back, and I was like, I'm gonna cry again in the middle of my kitchen while I'm making pasta, just because I saw a reel with a scene from the movie, and I'm gonna lose it here, and my wife is gonna say, what the hell are you doing? And I will, because it would be completely nonsense to do that. But anyway, it was great. It was great. You really gotta watch this movie. It's fantastic, and do it, please go to a movie theater. Don't wait for the movie to be in streaming or whatever. It's so amazingly directed and the photography is so good, and the acting is so good that you gotta watch it in a movie theater. You're not going to regret it. It's a fantastic film. But anyway, boys, girls, gentlemen, ladies, this is the moment where we say goodbye. Let me know what you think if you watch the movie. For the love of God, I will promise to record more episodes, because in any other adventure that I have out there, in any my other podcast in Italian about movies and about video games, I'm super precise. Every week there is an episode. I don't skip a bit, but with this one I'm having trouble because I'm having trouble anyway. But I promise I'll be back. Anyway, go see Hamnet, enjoy the movie, and enjoy cinema, study writing, do your art as David Lynch suggests, and see you next time. Bye.